Hey everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Instagram, on Twitter, on Pinterest, on a variety of other platforms when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. This week, my plan, usually in these live videos, my plan is to share all my kindergarten through 5th grade lessons for the week, how I plan, how I do all of that, share the resources, share the processes. That's normally what I do in these live videos. This week is a little bit different because everything in education is just a little bit different recently. So my plan in this week, all day and over the last week or so, I've been getting questions from folks about how do you do this, or how do you plan this, or what sort of platform are you using, and what is best practice for this. And so I've been trying to bring all of those questions together, and my plan in this video is to try and answer some of the questions that I've already had people ask. If you have questions now, you can leave them on this video. And I'll try and answer them as we go if possible. And honestly, I probably won't have all the answers to all of your questions because so many of us teach in such vastly different situations. But I think that I can, if I don't have the answer, I can help you find a resource or an answer for your question, or help you look in the right place. So that's sort of what I'm going to get to in just a minute. Before I do that, I want to just tell you all that if you hear me talk about a resource or a link or a book or something in this video, on my blog, which is makemomentsmatter.org, you can go to the video tab, and then under that video it says there's 2019-2020 Musical Mondays recap, and all of the links and things that I talk about are on that page on my blog. Or if you're watching on Facebook, at the bottom of the caption for this video there's a direct link, or if you're on Instagram, you can go to my LinkedIn profile and there's a direct link to the Musical Mondays recap page. So if you hear me say like it's on the links page, that's what I mean. One more thing, if you want another support group, another place to ask questions, another place to get ideas, there's a Facebook group called Every Moment Matters, Music Education Community, and there's been a lot of really great resources getting posted there, some great commentary, great just back and forth. So you can join that group on Facebook. That's Every Moment Matters, Music Education Community. And on that page, I've been dropping in a lot of resources and things that sort of I found along the way that I thought might be helpful. So check out that page if you want a few more resources. Okay, so like I said, I have been getting questions all week. I've been sort of compiling those. I've been asking for questions. What are your questions? So if you have questions now and want to leave them in the comments, you can. I'll try and answer those a little bit later. But one of the things that I may not have the answer, one of the things I'm realizing this last week is, someone will say, well, how do you do this thing? And I say, well, what platform are you doing it on? And they're like, oh, I'm using this other thing that is new, or we're using what our district says, or we're using what the state says, or, we're all in such different places with so many different technologies and platforms that none of us are going to have the exact same answer for the same problem. So because maybe like my district uses a platform called Canvas, but maybe your district doesn't, or maybe your district uses Seesaw, or maybe they use Google Classroom or Schoology or whatever. We're all coming at the same sort of idea and problem in a lot of different ways. So while we're all trying to find ways to teach music online or through distance, we don't all have the same resources and all the same strategies to teach. So I can't say definitively like this is the way. Plus also, we all have different teaching philosophies. Some of us use more of one thing or more of another. And then there's the question of how do you teach music, which is a group thing that you have to sort of do in the moment. How do you do that through technology or through a packet? And the answer is, I don't know. And we're all coming at this from different ways. So all that to say, you may have a different answer than I do, or you may have a different way to get to something. But I think that in the course of this video, if you don't get the answer you want, I may be able to point you in the direction of a place that you can get the right answer, or you can get more feedback for your question. I hope that makes sense, because I'm not going to have all the answers, but I might be able to help you find some of those answers. And one more thing I want to say before I even get anywhere else is, we are all coming at this, and a lot of us are very stressed. Stressed because we're having to change everything that we do. Stressed because there's a health component to this, and some of us are nervous about that, or we're nervous about going outside, or whatever. There's a lot of stress. And so one of the things that I like to think about in this situation is that there is no right way to do this. There is no correct way. No one has done this before in the sort of setting that we are now being told to do this. So there is no correct answer. So don't feel like I'm doing this wrong, because there's no wrong. There's no right, there's no wrong. So don't come into this feeling like, oh, I'm not doing this right. That's no such thing. So just every day I feel I have another problem with my classroom or something comes up, I just think like, I got to take a deep breath, just be thankful for all the things that are going well, and just move ahead, because there is no correct way. Just I have to keep that in my head, that mantra, sort of over and over again. That said, there are some good thoughts, some good processes when you think about online learning. And I found this, it's a list of do's and don'ts, or more like, this is helpful, maybe this is not helpful things. When I was searching through, and I found this in a Facebook discussion group on a group called like e-learning and music education. And I've linked that on the links page. I've linked directly to this post as well. So if you wanted to download and use this post, you can use it. It's a great way to get some sort of ideas about specifically digital learning and online learning. So here's some do's and don'ts, things that you might think about as you're planning lessons and processes for the future. So I just wanted to run through this really quickly, and then get to some examples and get to some ideas. One of the things that they think, and I talked about this last week, is that doing a live meeting is not maybe going to be so successful. And they call that synchronous learning, where everyone's doing something at the exact same time. That probably is not going to work very well for what we want students to do, because maybe the home situation, there's only one laptop and 4 kids who have to use that laptop. So for me to say, we're going to have 2nd grade music class at 9 a.m. and if you're not on live, you're not going to get it. Well, I can't really do that, because I have 200 students in 2nd grade, and they're all in different situations, and maybe one of them is eating breakfast, and maybe one of them, their sister, is using the computer, and maybe one of them, the internet's not working or whatever. So that synchronous, like you must be on live at this time to actually get the content, doesn't work. And so what you might do is like what I am currently doing right now is I have a live feed going, and then I post it to Facebook, or I post it to YouTube, so that people can get it later who can't be on live. And so maybe if you're thinking about your classroom where you want to have sort of like a live situation, you could do that where it's live and then post for others, because it's not feasible to ask all students to show up all at one time for a live environment. Okay, this list is just so great. Less is more. Students are getting bombarded by lots of different assignments and requirements, so to give them a little bit less than maybe you would if it were like a substitute teacher situation or a snow day or something, you give them less because they're getting bombarded. There's too much. And what I'm noticing with my students is the way our school does it is kids follow the specials rotation. So if we were in school, maybe Miss Smith's class comes to music today, and maybe tomorrow is, Miss Bamer's class or whatever. And so the kids are supposed to know, or they're supposed to hear from their homeroom teacher, like, today's a music day, so go find the music component on our online learning management system and do your music lessons. Well, I'm finding that my kids aren't really doing that. And so some of them, like I've posted multiple assignments so that kids can stay busy and kids have things to do. And some kids are like, do I have to do all of this? Or how many of these do I do? Or they're on the wrong day or whatever. So asking less of students is okay, to not have such an involved thing. Like you must have a 16-beat composition or a 16-bar composition. It's got to have 2 voices, and like, not that kind of assignment. Less is more. Be realistic with the expectations that you really think kids are going to be able to do. Giving explicit and clear instructions is important. So what I found was that I had listed like 5 assignments for 1 grade level. And my thought behind that was, well, then like if they complete one and they want to do another one, well, then they can. Like there's more content for them to do if they want. But I had a student who emailed me like, do I have to do all of these today? Are they all due? Is it? And so I had to remember to go into my instructions and say like, choose one of these 5 assignments. If you want to do more than one, you can. But if here's the one that you should, choose one, or start with this one, and then you can also do whatever, but give explicit instructions about that, specify your expectations, and then, be empathetic if students can't, get all the work done. that's okay. Again, and I said this last week, my mindset is sort of like, I want students to have things to do. I want them to be encouraged to do more and to be more engaged musically. But I have sort of lower expectations of like, I want them to do at least, this or this. And so I'm trying to be empathetic and understand like there's so much that they can do and only so much time they can handle on their computer. So I'm trying to have a little grace with that. What they talk about communication is that you should be online for your office hours. So my school does like 9 to 10:30 office hours where I am at my computer. And if a student sends me a message, I respond back during that time. And then they said, but do not be on standby at all times. So if you get an email at 9 p.m., you don't have to answer that. Like I for a couple days, I was like, I got a parent email me at like 9:30 p.m. and I was like, I gotta go respond to this. No, you can wait and be like, I'm gonna respond to this during school hours. And it feels a little bit like we're always on because your computer's always on, your phone is right there, and maybe you get your emails to your phone. Well, shut that off because you shouldn't feel like you are scrambling all day long. Just be consistent on your office hours or your actual workday time. And then some of the other things they say is, on this list, again, this is the list that I'm going through, and I have linked this on the links page. Seek student feedback. Get feedback from students. Like, is this working? How is it working? Did you try this? Is it, And what I found for a couple of things is like we're able to embed something called Nearpod in our learning management system. And what I'm finding is some students are doing great. Some students are having technical problems. It took me a while to figure out like, oh, you can't use that browser, or you can't do this on your iPhone or whatever. And so getting that feedback from students is really helpful to know like, hey, here's, this is what's working, this is what's not. So it's good to get that feedback from students. Okay, so that was just this really cool graphic. It was super helpful, and I'm going to link this on the links page. I'm also going to post this on my Facebook group, which is Every Moment Matters Music Education Community. I'm going to post it because it was so helpful for me to like help me as I thought about what I wanted to do with my classes and my lessons and how I wanted to make that work. So I'm going to post that and give you all a chance to read through that yourself because I think it's super helpful. But my plan for today is I'm going to show you, I've created sort of a dummy site, an example site that you might use where you can pull my lessons, you can pull the examples of things that I've done. I've posted, and for each grade level, I think there are 3 lessons at least now, and some levels, or some grade levels maybe more, of examples of lessons you can use. And so I'm going to show you that in just a second, and then I'm going to go through some of the questions that I received today and sort of get through some of that. And if there's time left over, I'll see if there are more questions actually in the comments of this video right now. But let me show you this site first. And I'll say I set up this site, and it's, last week I talked about if you don't have something like Canvas or Blackboard or Schoology where like your district says use this. If you don't have that, you have some choices about what you're going to use, and I'll talk about that later. But one of the things I said last week was you can set up a really easy site on something like Weebly or Wix. And I did that. I actually tried both. Wix was not very good, so I'm going to say now Weebly is my platform of choice because it was very easy to set up, it's very easy to maintain, and I'm getting some great results from it where people are able to access it, all the technology's working, it works on mobile, and so it's a nice site. So I'll show you that in just a second. But on this site, there are all these demo lessons, and I'll show you. Let me just zoom in and show you that lesson right now, or those things right now. Okay, sorry, I don't know why this is. Let me see if I can make this work a little better. Sorry, Facebook. Thanks for bearing with me as I try and zoom in here. Okay. Yeah, that's not going to work. This is the fun thing about technology. You never know if it's going to work. Okay, I'm just going to turn my whole home office around and see if I can show it to you this way. Please excuse the mess. Okay. Let's see. There's Instagram. Hopefully this works. And let's see, Facebook. I'm going to flip you around. Okay, cool. So this is my website that I just created this week. If you go to digitalmusiclessons.weebly.com, you can find this exact site. And I'm just going to sort of take you through. So here's the landing page. and it talks about digital learning and music. Here's a little bit of an explanation of why I set this up. And then down here are little buttons that'll take you to, there's a button and a page for each grade level. You can also just go up to the menu here on top if you want to go to different grade levels. So what I did was I created a Weebly site, and I basically just made a blog for each of these pages. So each of these is a blog where I can go through, and then I can post a lesson here, and it's like a blog post. It has the date and the time and whatever, and then it's very, very easy to add content in here to share with y'all. But if you're doing this for your classroom, you could easily do this too, where you had one blog for each grade level, and Weebly allows you to have, like, now it has 6 different blogs: a blog for kindergarten, a blog for first grade, a blog for second grade. Wix won't let you do that. WordPress is sort of tricky to do that. So if you're thinking about doing something just like this and you want a platform, Weebly works pretty well. But anyway, here's the kindergarten page. So on this page, I have a couple sample lessons. So here's one. It's called Play the Drums. It's about body percussion. And so on the top, it says Play the Drums, Teacher Notes. This is for you to sort of explain what I'm doing with the lesson and why. And then below it, it says what I share with the kids. So this is exactly what I would post on my learning management system for students. So there's a little blurb that explains, there's a video, and then at the bottom, there's a follow-up. And the follow-up is pretty simple. So in the video, it's about playing the drums on different parts of your body. So I'll show this to you.
Let's play the drums.
Obviously, this is slanted kindergarten, or honestly, probably preschool.
Can you play the drums? Can you play the drums? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I can play the drums. On my head. On my belly. On my knees. On my foot.
So then it goes back. So this is a really simple video, but for my younger kids, I'm thinking like, I want them to be using body percussion. I want them to be a little bit more active. And so then the follow-up question, it says, what did you hear when you pat on your head, on your feet, or your belly? Can you find any other places to play the drums with body percussion? What would it sound like if you played on your chin? How about your shoulders? Can you play on your back? Oh, typo. Use the space below to tell me another place where you played the drums. So for my students, I would want them to leave me a little comment about where they can do that. And with the platform that we're using at my school, that would work really, really well. Okay. So then I have another post, Cuckoo Kangaroo, move your body. So here at the top is the teacher notes for you about what I'm doing and why. And then down here is what I share with students. Here's a little video and another little video and little blurbs in there as well. Here's another video, Ba Ba Black Sheep. And it goes through sort of the lesson and everything else. I don't know why this is doing this. Sorry, I'm going to shut off my notifications really quick. There we go. Anyway, so this is just different lessons. Let's sing, barnyard songs. These are all lessons I would use with kindergarten. And then there's another page. There's first grade. And I can go through and show you all my, my first grade lessons and things I would use, different things that you could try with your kids. So there are different options on here, all by grade level. Use them if you want, use lessons if you want, use the format if you want or not, but it's totally up to you. But I wanted to create this page to give people ideas of what they could use, and then they can modify or change or do things as they wanted. But they're all on here, and I'm adding more lessons every day as I add them to my own assignments for students. But there are a lot of ideas and lessons you can steal here if you want. Okay, let me try and turn this right around again. Let's see if I can change this. Okay, sorry Instagram, sorry Facebook, we're making a switch. We're flipping around. Okay, thanks for taking that trip through my office with me. So those are just some lessons that you can use if you want some ideas. I've had a couple teachers who have actually just sent out that link to the parents at their school. Please don't do that. I've had a couple parents who have left their personal information on the website thinking that it's their music teacher's website, so they left like their personal phone number and information about their child. Please don't do that. So don't send out this website to them saying like, here are assignments you can create. You can take those lessons and use them yourself and recreate them on whatever platform you choose, but don't just send out that. Anyway, I had a really fun conversation with a mom, a hairstylist in North Carolina. Anyway, so if you like any of those lessons, great, use them. If you leave comments on those blog posts like, how do you assess, or this link isn't working, or whatever, that helps me know if I can modify or change for y'all. But it's just a place for you to get ideas if you want. And then there's a whole page at the end, which I'm planning on adding more in the next day, with resources like from the London Symphony Orchestra and San Francisco Symphony, and apps that you can recommend, and all sorts of things. That's going to go on there soon. But again, I'm trying to keep my office hours and not do anything past the time that I need to. But I'm just adding in as much as I can when I can. So I hope that that's helpful. Okay, I want to get to some questions. As normal, Facebook is not showing me any of your live questions, but luckily I'm able to look at my computer and see your live questions. But I do have some that folks have already sent in to me, and so I'm going to answer some of those, and then with the time we have left, I'll check on Facebook and see what your questions have been as they've been coming in. So that was my example site, and that's Digital Music Lessons. Let me see if I'm saying this right. digitalmusiclessons.weebly.com. That's linked on the links page. And you can go there and see lots of those example things. But how do you choose the platform you do? That's a lot of people have had that question as they're thinking about, how am I going to set this up? And there is no one right answer. Some people are using Seesaw. Some people are using Schoolology. Some, like my district, has set up something called Canvas. And there's another thing called Blackboard, where it's all these systems that you could use. A couple of things about that. I would say if you don't have any system in place, check around. On the links page, I put a link to a really great long discussion that I found on Facebook about different things that different people have used. And each teacher who comments on there is like, well, I use this because, or I use this because, or my district has been using this, or we've been told. And so it's nice to see that commentary. So if you click that link on the links page, you'll be able to see that discussion and decide like, why would I use Schoolology versus Zoom or whatever. You can see some of that commentary. Like I said, it's tricky for me to answer that because I don't think there is a right answer, number one, but it's also tricky because my school has a system that we use that's specific, and so I don't have a lot of experience with some of those other things, but it's great to see other teachers as they comment and talk together about different platforms. Let's see. Oh, and I'm going to be talking a little bit later about people who don't have technology. I'll try and get to that a little bit later. So there are lots of questions like, how can they submit videos? Can students submit videos to you? I don't know, that's tricky. It depends, again, on the systems that you want to set up. It depends. Like I have 1,200 students, so I don't want all of my students to send me a video, because then it's 1,200 videos. What if they're all 2 minutes long? That's a long time to go through and grade into whatever. And I don't want, I don't know. For me, that wouldn't work. But I think there are a lot of ways that you can do that. It just is looking for the right system. And so again, my advice to you is to get on the Facebook groups. There are a couple that are dedicated to digital learning and music education, like e-learning and music education. There's another one like digital teaching or something. In my Facebook group, Every Moment Matters, you can ask those questions too. But before you go in and just like ask like, what's the best way? Do a search. That's I found many times when I have a question about this or about puppets or about whatever, if I go in and ask like, oh, I have this question, someone's like, we talked about this already like a week ago. Or, so when I go in and I search instead, and I search the topic, you can often find really good discussions that have already happened, and you can get a lot of information before you ask that question that's maybe already been asked before. But the one about platforms has been asked on multiple different pages, a lot of different ways. And so you can go in, even if you're like, should I use Schoolology? Go in and search on the groups, search Schoolology or search Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, and you'll be able to find resources for that. Let's see, another one about platform. I'm just going to talk specifically about YouTube in just a minute because a lot of people have asked questions about YouTube. Let's see. Can you invite others to contribute to a Facebook Live? You can, but that is very tricky, and you would want to practice several times with Facebook Live before you do that. But like I said earlier, I don't do a lot of live videos with my students anyway, because who knows if they can all be on at that time? Is it possible. And so for my daily lessons, I don't do live things with them. It's usually pre-recorded that I share with them. But you can do that, but then what happens if a student has something they want to share and then it shares out to 200 people and it's not something that they should be sharing? I mean, it's not like a classroom where you have, 30 kids or whatever. A live platform is a little different. So I sort of, like I said, I stay away from live, but then also inviting other people on, I don't really do that. I wouldn't do that if students were around. Okay, so I already talked about different platforms you can use, like Weebly or Wix or WordPress if you wanted to create a blog where you have, you send out the link to students and they can go and find your lessons. That's an easy way to do it, and I would recommend Weebly. If you have some other platform you want to use or you have questions, go and search that. But like I said, it's new to all of us. So if you set something up and you're like, this really is not working, well, do something different. It's okay to make changes as you go because we're all sort of learning. What I would suggest, if your school does not already have something like Canvas or Blackboard or whatever set up in place, ask the classroom teachers what they're doing. Maybe all of one grade level is like, we're using Google Classroom, or maybe most of your classroom teachers are like, we're using Schoology. I would say use what they're using because students are going to be comfortable and they're going to be familiar with that technology. So if all the other teachers in the school are using, I don't know, Zoom meeting or whatever, and you're like, I'm going to use this other thing, well, then that might be very confusing for students. So ask what other teachers in your building are doing or other teachers in your district are doing, and maybe see if you might use that option first, because again, kids are going to be familiar with it. Maybe if your whole district is doing it, other teachers in your district can share lessons and things with you through that platform. So ask around and see what other people are using and see if that might work for you. Okay, how do you set up lessons? What kind of lessons do you set up? That's a question I've gotten a lot and I've seen a lot, and there is no easy right answer for that. So for example, people are asking, how long should the lesson be? Do you need to have some sort of assessment piece? Are there expectations from your school about how you set up that lesson? Do they need to complete a full thing, or is it just okay if they just watch? Is there like a pass fail? Like, how do you set that up? And that is a tricky question to answer if you don't have an expectation from your school district, because some school districts will say you must have this amount of time, you must have some sort of assessment piece, you must be posting your ICANN statements or whatever. I mean, every school is different. So you sort of need to ask your administrator first, like, what is the expectation for this? And some schools, the expectation is they have to do their core subjects. If they want to do art and music and PE, they can, but we're not going to require that. Well, that's a district decision and that's a school decision, and that's not something that you can really change. But for me, my expectation is, again, pretty low, because I don't know how much time my students are going to have to devote to this. I'm not sure how much support they're going to get from parents. So it's sort of tricky for me to know what I can give to them and what they are able to do. So I know some places when we were first setting this up with the idea that like we'll have digital learning days in place of snow days. So if it's a snow day, the digital learning day will make up for that, so they can still be learning at home on the snow day. And that was problematic as it was. But that was the reason that our school started setting up digital learning days a couple years ago. And now that we have the platform in place, we're using it, but it was not planned to be like weeks at a time like we're doing now. So when we were talking about snow days, the expectation was like a kindergartner can only be expected to do about 20 minutes. And I raised my hand in those meetings and I was like, does that include music? Is that 20 minutes of music, or is it 20 minutes of English language arts, social studies, everything, and music is mixed in? And they did not have an answer for me. So it's tricky to know how much to give to a kid. So what I generally am doing with my students is I'm giving them options for assignments. So whether they want to do the sing-along videos, if they want to do find and make your own instrument, if they want to do body percussion, if they want to do, I'm giving them options for what they can choose to do. And the assignment for me is, here are 5 different options, choose one and complete it. And again, my school district doesn't have a lot of expectation behind that, so they're not sure how we're going to assess. They're not sure how, can this count towards grades? Like, they don't know. And a lot of states, they don't know. And so for me, I'm giving my kids options, and I'm giving them more options than just one. So if there's that one kid who's like sitting at home and they love music and they're bored, they can do all 5 assignments if they want. But you're only required to do 1 in this rotation, and they're able to go and do that on their own if they want. And it's usually something that's like, watch and give me a sentence answer, or sing along with this thing and give me, a response about how it went, or, and I'm giving them different kinds of things, instrument things, music things, observation, listening things, all different options that they can go through, do like a formal assessment. I'm not having them like video a project and give it to me, just because, again, I don't know what kids can and can't do depending on technology or time or resources, etc. One other thing that I saw that was really interesting is that someone said in one of those Facebook commentaries, they said, our union has said to not use the word assessment and to make all of these assignments optional, because if you say it's an assessment, you are required to prove that you've met all the IEP accommodations, the ADA accommodations, and that's really tricky, especially when maybe there's not a district platform, or even if there is a district platform, maybe it's not perfect, or maybe there are students who can't get on, and so it's tricky to say like you must do this when you don't have the backup accountability. So again, what I'm saying is I'm giving kids options, and I'm in my list for assignments, I'm saying, please complete 1 of the 5. If you want to do more, you can, but do at least 1, and then go, and on each assignment, there's a way for them to submit that they have finished. But again, we don't have the answer, but I try and I give them options, then I give them a way to give some sort of response. And like I said, if there are overachievers who want to do more, go for it. But I like I said, I'm going back to this this post I found. Be empathetic, specify expectations, less is more. I'm trying to keep that in my head, so I'm not overworking myself, I'm not overworking students, and I'm giving them some options of what they can do. Okay, so I talked just a tiny bit about platform. I thought I saw something come up here on Instagram. I always lose those questions. I set up a quick generic calendar of music activity ideas for each day, Monday through Friday, that was sent home last week. Just something to start with. Well, that's cool. That could be done whether you have a digital learning or whether you have packets of learning. I'm going to talk a little bit later about non-digital options. Okay, so I talked a little bit about the platform and the structure of lessons. A lot of people have been asking about books. Can you read books? Are you violating copyright if you're reading books? How do you do this? Good questions. And again, there is not a strong, steady answer. If none of this were happening, if none of us were stuck at home, if the world were the way it was 4 months ago, if you're reading a book and sharing the whole book on a video for your students, technically that breaks copyright, I think. Even if you claim that it's an educational purpose or whatever, it's tricky. Now, in the world we live in now, the answers are a little bit different. A lot of authors are giving permission either digitally or verbally or whatever online, or showing that they're like, yes, please read my books to students through whatever platform you can. Scholastic just came out with a press release a day or 2 ago, and I linked that on the links page, saying like, we understand that it is a very tricky time and we want you to be able to use our resources. So here are the things we would love for you to do. First, if you're going to do a video of you doing a read aloud, go for it. But first, if you could say, with the permission of Scholastic, we are allowed to blah, blah, blah. And they have a little blurb about that. Then they say, if you're going to post it, please post it on a closed site that is not just open to the whole world. And then they say, if you're not able to do that, if you do not have a platform, you are allowed to post the video on a platform that is open to the whole world, but at the end of the school year, please take it down. And Scholastic is a huge name. So for them to say like, yes, you can do read alouds, yes, you can post them for students, as long as you follow these very honestly simple guidelines and then take the video down at the end of the school year. Okay, great. And for non-Scholastic books, I would say just look through their press releases and their website and see if maybe, because a lot of companies are even saying like, this is a time that's different than all others. You are now allowed to blah, blah, blah for the sake of students. But I think with all these lessons, I think that applies to, books and resources, curriculum, that in most cases the author and the creator is going to say, yes, you can use it. Please do it on a closed site that's not open to the whole world. Please don't make it downloadable so that students can download the resource and disseminate it or whatever. I think a lot of people are saying that. People on Teachers Pay Teachers and curriculum design companies are saying, yes, you can post our things, but please just don't make it downloadable so that anyone in the world, please don't share the resource with everyone in the world. I think that it's a lot of little common sense things, but if you're going to do read alouds, if you're going to post resources like that, do it on a closed site, meaning that a student has to have a password to get to it, or it's like an unlisted site where you can only get to it if you have the direct web address. Those are good practices to put in place. You're using a closed site and then take it down when you're done. Don't just leave it out there forever. I think those are sort of common sense things. But like I said, a lot of companies, Scholastic is a really huge name, but a lot of big name authors like Mo Willems and some others are saying, yes, you can do this as long as you are smart with the content. And I think that that's amazing. That's so cool that people are doing that and giving that permission. And that as long as you're being good stewards with the resource. Okay, so that's about books and copyright. And let me talk about YouTube because it's a really easy transition. If you upload, and I talked a little bit about this last week. If you upload a video to YouTube, you have three options. You can make it public, which means anyone can see it. Anyone can go into YouTube and search it and find it. That's a public video. You can make a private video, which means that someone has to be signed in to YouTube. They have to be given permission to view it to be able to see that video. That is strictly private, and they have to be signed in. So that's probably not very good for students because our students aren't all going to have logins to YouTube. Even if they do, how are you going to be able to send it out to all of them? Maybe if you have a class of 5 kids and you know their YouTube emails, that's different. But I don't think any of us are in that situation. So public is an option. I think the best option is it's called unlisted video. So if you upload to YouTube and make it unlisted, you can get a shareable link, a link for that page, and you can send it out to parents or to students or whatever. And if they click the link, they can see it on YouTube. But if they search for the video on YouTube, they're not going to find it. So it's not searchable. It's not public really. It's unlisted. But if you have the URL, you can get it. It's like in the olden days, if you didn't want your phone number listed in the phone book, you can be an unlisted number. It still means people can call you. It's just your information is not out there in the public. That's really old. For those of us who know what phone books are, because I'm old and I know that, but it's unlisted. So I think about that the same way for YouTube. If it's unlisted, it's there for students to find if they have the direct link. So what you might do is you might make that video that you upload to YouTube and then put it on an email you send out to parents, or put it on your website, your school website or whatever, so that kids can find it. But it's not like I'm going to go in and find it because I can't search for it. But it's unlisted. But that's a YouTube thing that's... it's just good to know the 3 different versions. And the other thing is if you're uploading a video to YouTube and you click that it is content for children, that's great because YouTube has sort of special rules and protections about videos for kids now, so that they're not going to get ads that are inappropriate. They're not going to get hit with other things. They're not going to get linked to other videos that are inappropriate. They'll only get content that is appropriate for kids. So if you make it a video for kids, or there are kids in the video, then that sort of changes the type of video that it is. So that's another thing to think about when you're uploading to YouTube. So if you're uploading, make it a video for kids, and that's in the normal options, and then either do public or unlisted. Probably private would not work, and I would suggest unlisted video. Okay, a couple more things, and I'm going to see if there are live questions. Okay, YouTube, got that. Books, okay, we talked about that. Copyright. Yep, okay. Structure of lesson, talk about that. Okay, let's talk about non-digital lessons for people who are like, my kids don't have technology. What if they can't access? How do we do that? And I'm going to say, again, I don't know. My district, my district is a district where we have an expectation that all kids are able to get on Canvas. We've been handing out laptops to kids who don't have laptops at home. So all students, the expectation is that they will get on and do their lessons online. That is our district expectation. We've been for us it's great. We've been working on it a couple years. Kids know how to get on. We've talked about procedures. It's a thing. For those teachers who do not live in districts like that, or maybe they're not sure their kids are going to have access, it's tricky. What do? Do you create a packet? What do you put in the packet? How do you do that? Are kids going to be able to do it? I don't know. So it's really tricky, and I'll tell you, I don't know the answer, but there are a lot of people who are in that same boat. And so if you go to the Facebook groups and search packet or non-digital, or there are a couple that I've linked on the links page to some great conversations I've already seen. But I would say just keep searching and keep looking and do a couple searches first, and then ask questions like, hey, I can't send home, because I swear there are probably 70 different posts I've seen over the last week of people saying, I can't do digital, what do I do? And different threads. And so you'll find lots of answers. So search through first and you'll find those answers. Oh, I see someone saying, Mandy says, the only problem with YouTube videos for kids is that you cannot add them to a playlist. Thoughts? Don't add them to a playlist then? I think that's not a very good answer. Playlists are very helpful. But I would say if it go back to like, what are you sending out to students? If you even like send out a Google Doc, and on the Google Doc you have like a list of all the unlisted videos, then they can click and go to them. And it's not as simple as a playlist, but unlisted or videos for kids are so much better than videos that are not tagged that way. So it's sort of like, wow, I wish I could also put these videos for kids in a playlist. But there are workarounds, if that makes sense. So if it were me on Canvas, I would be able to add all the different links for the different videos and say like video 1, video 2, video 3, or Barnyard video, or Baby Shark video, or whatever. But even if we didn't have Canvas, I could put them in a Google Doc. I could put them on Weebly. I could put them wherever to help with that. And someone else is saying you can use Safe YouTube website to make sure the videos are appropriate. That's great if it works, but my district, we used safeshare.tv, my colleague and the district blocked it. Or some web browsers don't work well with that. So if it works, Safe YouTube website, great. Or safeshare.tv, great. But sometimes they don't always work. So it's sort of like, oh gosh, how do you do that? Okay, sorry, that was a jump back into YouTube. But for those of you who don't use technology, I'd say do some quick searches, because you're not the only one. You're not the only one asking that. Okay, I've gotten through some of my questions already. I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit some of the questions people have asked, and I see some here on Facebook, so let me see. Ooh, there are a lot. Rats. Okay, let's see. People have asked. Yes, and I've linked some of these on the links page for this video, like some of those groups I've talked about, like e-learning for music education or digital creation. There's one, someone said special education in music called Music for Special Learners. Cool. And I would say just look through those pages and see what the conversations have already been and see if you can find some answers there. Kelly said, I think there are a lot of right ways to do these digital distance learning, but no wrong ways. Right, we're all figuring this out as we go. So that's sort of helpful. You sort of just got to take a breath and think like, if my ultimate goal is to get kids to love music more, even if I don't have the perfect assessment tool for this digital thing, as long as I'm hitting my goal of getting kids to love music better, then that's what's most important. It's sort of frustrating, or technology or whatever, but the more that I can work on getting kids to love music, that's the most important thing. Let's see. We've been doing iLearn at home packets for the last 5 years for bad weather days. That's a cool idea, Stephanie. We found it's best to do short enrichment activities. The district suggests 20 minutes for related arts and giving students a choice. Cool. So I learn at home packets. I wonder if that's a thing, Stephanie, or if that's something that your district is calling that. Or is that like a thing you can look at online? I don't know. I'll check into that and see if I can add that later. But yeah, if you have a thing at home, there are a lot of cool non-digital activities you can ask kids to do. Like find something at home that's or find an instrument. How can you use that? Or could you hear patterns in the sounds you hear? Or what are the things you hear on the radio? What do you love on the radio? Or, I mean, they're all body percussion. There are all sorts of things you can ask kids to do, but if you keep them sort of short, sort of simple, if you're asking them to do something like, I want you to create an ABA form with 16 bars in each section, like that's super tricky for kids who maybe don't have the help of a teacher right there. Okay, let's see. Lots of very supportive comments. Cool. Someone said, I'm glad to know it wasn't just me with Wix. Who's having trouble with Wix? Wix is... I thought it was so easy, and it was easy, but not if you're adding multiple blogs. That's not easy. So I'd check out Weebly. Thanks, Sarah, for affirming that. Christina says, we're using Google Classroom in our district, but I've gotten a half a dozen emails where the kids need me to invite them to access it, even though I've already posted it. Yeah, it's tricky. And the tricky thing about all this digital stuff is like you may, on your side, it may say, yes, you're doing everything right. And for kids, maybe they just can't access it. And it's like maybe maybe it's because you're accessing it on a phone, or maybe it's because you're using the wrong browser or whatever. And I would say that the longer you do this, the more you're going to have those answers. And so at first it feels like such a struggle just answering those logistical questions, but it will iron itself out. I have a friend who's a second grade teacher in my district, and she's like, I was on the computer from like 8 to 6 every day last week. She's like, I had a cocktail every night. It was so much work. And she's like, and mostly it was figuring out, how does this person access, or how are we having problems, or why isn't this person seeing it? She's like, but this week, it's all of that's done. Now we can actually get stuff done. So I think for us, it's going to maybe take a little bit longer because we have more kids or more people going through different platforms or whatever. But again, I think a couple things that would help would be to just keep notes of like, why didn't that work for this person? How can I make it work better? Asking your classroom teachers for help. So if you reach out to that second grade teacher, that fourth grade teacher, and say like, so-and-so is having trouble accessing. Do you know, has it happened in your class? Have you seen that? Or what platform is working for you? That's sort of helpful and will give you a little bit more data going in. So asking for help from people around you. Let's see. Rosemary says, I'm using Google Classroom too. My team was thinking of sending the invitation to the classroom teachers to share out to families. We're in training this week and launch instruction next week. I think that's great. Yeah. Like I said, if you send out to classroom teachers, they have been in communication with parents and students all year long. So they can sort of be your go-between and say like, here's the music teacher website. Here's how you get on it. Or here, if you communicate that with students and then communicate with parents and communicate with your teacher to communicate to those people again, you just keep getting more feedback from a lot of different places. So I would say, yeah, Rosemary is exactly right. If you're using Google Classroom, sending it to the homeroom teachers to send out, that's a great idea. Let's see. People talking about the web page I created, Digital Music Lessons. Is that what I called it? digitalmusiclessons.weebly.com. You can find a lot of examples of things you can do if you wanted to set up on your own page. Should I create a Weebly page besides my Google Classroom and teacher website? Christina asks. No. If those other things work well for you, don't add more. But use what works well. Use what I would say if your district has a preferred platform, use that. And if not, then you roll the dice. Choose what you think works best for you and your setting. Heather says, we're using Google Classroom and our classroom teachers sent out our class codes. Cool. The students then join our class. Awesome. It's so nice to have that backup from the classroom teachers. I had better success just inviting the kids by getting by name to my Google Classroom. When I gave a code and asked them to join, not all did. That's Laura said that. Yeah, Google Classroom, I don't know a lot about, but you're right. Even for me, where our district has set up like, here's the way, and they have put all the students in, there are going to be those glitches. So just keep at it, keep trying to reach out and find different ways. But like I said, after a little bit of time, it's going to get better, and you're going to figure out those stress problems with the technology issues. Thanks so much for putting this together. Woohoo! Happy to help when I can. Will you say the Weebly site again? That's from 28 minutes ago. But digitalmusiclessons.weebly.com, or it's linked on the links page, and you'll be able to find it. I also sent out an email today. If you're on my email list, you got that resource there. Let's see. So again, Elena asks, can we link those platforms to our school website, like Google Classroom or Weebly or whatever? I don't know. It's another tricky time where, like, without being in your shoes with your school and your district and your platform, I don't know. But if it's something where you can go and ask other music teachers in your district, or you can ask a classroom teacher, they're going to know your system a little bit better. So I think this is one of those times where we're all stuck at home, and again, we're feeling like, I'm an island, I don't know, I don't have help. Well, that's how music teachers feel all the time. We feel like an island. But the great thing about right now is that all your classroom teachers feel the same way. Other people in your district feel the same way. So reach out to people who are using similar systems to you and see if they can help you with some of those questions. Let's see, on Instagram. On Wednesday, our school, they're going to meet virtually on Zoom to chat about how we can meet the needs digitally and non-digitally. I agree with communication with classroom teachers to help each other out. Yeah, but again, check in with your classroom teachers, check in with your district to see what they're doing. Let me answer a couple more questions here. As a parent of a third grader and teacher of grades 1 through 8, music is not on the top of people's lists right now. Yep, parents appreciate something students can do by themselves that doesn't take very long, so they have exposure to music lessons and then can move on and finish the never-ending list, unfortunately. Laura said that. I have heard that and seen that sort of all over, especially for maybe secondary teachers. They're getting bombarded with assignments from all over, from all different places. And part of that is us worrying, because I know some people are like, well, we send out all these assignments because we're worried that the admin's going to look at us and say, like, we're not doing much. Yeah, and I get that, but I think that Laura's right. Parents are getting bombarded, like, there's so many things to do. So like I said, for my students, I'm giving them 5 or 6 assignments on their assignments tab saying you should do one of these for the rotation. If you want to do more, you can. And there's one boy I know who he's like, I did all the ukulele assignments and more, and I kept going, and I found this other thing. And did you know that there's this chord called D minor 7? Like, I'm getting this email from him, I'm like, I love this child. But there are some kids who are like, it's too much. It's too much, and they don't have enough time, or the internet's not working, or whatever, and they're just getting overwhelmed. So I think Laura's right, and that goes back to one of the first things I said was, less is more. And, give kids options and give them chances to choose, and then whatever they can do, they can do. If we had started the school year in August and we were all digital all the time, I think expectations would be different. But as it is happening now, and it is very abrupt and quick, we just sort of have to give a little grace and say, like, well, we're doing what we can, and whatever students can do, they can do. Ooh, Laura also said, I group lessons together for grades 1 through 3, 4 through 6, 7 through 8. So, like, that's a great idea for a couple reasons. One, it means that you're creating and doing less. So, like, on the website I gave today, digitalmusiclessons.weebly.com, you could use the kindergarten lesson that I shared there and said kindergarten. You can use it for kindergarten or first or second or whatever you want. And what Laura's saying is she grouped them together, so if you have siblings in like first and second grade, they can work together on that assignment. But also, if you're reusing a lesson for multiple grades, you're not, breaking your back trying to get lesson ideas. You're not feeling overwhelmed by that. So use and reuse as you want, and then kids can either work together, or it also means that then you're not having to work so hard. This is a great idea, Laura. I'm so glad you said that. Let's see. We have a Related Arts choice grid with our teams to put on Google Classroom. Kids go to one place to get everything they need. That's great. Stephanie said that. You could also create a grid that links them to all the art, music, whatever lessons to your own personal websites. That'll help them find more. Rosemary says we're doing one Google Classroom for art, music, PE, and media, so everything is in one place. That's cool. If you can get your team on board with that, I think that's a great idea. Maybe you could create your own like Weebly page, and then like one blog is all music, and one is all art, and one is all PE. That's sort of a cool idea. People are talking about calendars for different things for different days. Let's see. Ooh, this is so great. Ashlyn just... Oh, I think that's the link I think I put on too. Ashlyn said there's a link with various publishers about their policies, adapting their policies to let educators read online, even if it's a copywritten book or whatever. So she put that on the link on Facebook, but I'll make sure that I add that to the links page. Let's see. So Heather says, with the unlisted YouTube videos, do you know if ads or other videos on the sidebar pop up, or pop-up ads coming on? Turning on child safe is not enough for us. We can't send out anything that could pop to other videos. That's tricky. With my system, Heather, on my page, which is the Canvas platform, and you could probably do this on blogs and things too, but what you can do is you can embed the video so that it plays in your page. So like instead of taking kids to YouTube, it plays in Canvas. And one of the things you can do on YouTube is when you go and you click share on YouTube itself, if you click share under the video, it gives you options. And it says like share to Twitter, share to Facebook, share to whatever. There's a button there that says embed. And if you click embed, it gives you more options, like it says like you can embed and take away user controls, or there's a couple little things you can do in there to take some of those options out. I don't know that there's a hard and fast, like, here's the way to get rid of all ads, because YouTube is set up to make those ads run because that's what pays their bills. So even though we're teachers and it's a special situation, whatever, I don't know that there's a way that YouTube will do that'll make it easy for us to take those ads out, because that's how they keep the lights on. So I don't know if there's a right answer, but there are ways that you can limit the chances that things are going to pop up. I think the only way to make sure that doesn't happen is to create your own videos and to host them on your own, like to host them on, like send kids links to like Google Drive or whatever, where it is just to a video. If you're going to use a platform like Vivo or Vimeo or YouTube or whatever, you're likely to get ads. But I think in this situation, some people are a little bit more like, YouTube's the only way or whatever. Some districts are like, okay, fine. But, but again, that depends on you and your, it depends on your school and your school's expectations. Let's see. Oh, or you could try like safeshare.tv, things like that take some of those ads out. Okay. There are some other really great questions in here, and I'm almost out of time. So I'm going to go back and try and answer some of these questions. Oh, someone said, can you create a Google Slides with YouTube videos embedded in there? Maybe. I'm not as familiar with Google Slides. Try it. See how that works. And some other really great comments of people answering some of these questions that have already come up. So check in the comments of this page. If you're not watching this on Facebook now or whatever, you can always go in and come back to this video and see it here and see some of these great questions. I'm going to try and answer some of these questions again. But as the week goes on, please keep asking questions on my Facebook group, Every Moment Matters Music Education Community. Ask those questions, get those answers. Before you ask, and I've said this like 5 times today, before you ask a question in a Facebook group, search the group to see if someone has already asked it, because that will, number one, save you time typing out your question. But it might also give you the answers that you already need, and you're not waiting for the answers to come up. Like maybe if you search like, oh, here's the thread, and the answer's already there. So I would say go in and search, and then if you don't find your answer, ask the question. There are so many people who are coming in with great resources and questions and answers right now, that it's really honestly cool to see how the music ed community is coming together to help everyone get through this. So ask your questions, you'll get some of those, but come back if you want onto this Facebook thread and ask questions here. I'll try and answer them as much as I can. Let's see. Is anyone using TikToks? No. We're not. Using TikToks for education. I think that's tricky. I'm going to stay away from that. Yeah, so there's some really great questions and answers coming up. Come back to this thread if you want. But you can also email me anytime you want, makemomentsmatter@gmail.com, or send me a message through Facebook. I'm going to be again here next week for another Musical Mondays video. So if you have questions, keep them coming. Check out my website, digitalmusiclessons.weebly.com. I'm going to be adding more lessons even tomorrow, and the next day, so you can get lots of ideas for things you can do in your own classroom. I hope this was helpful. And I hope that you feel a little bit more prepared or have a few more ideas or places at least that you can go and find some of those answers in the weeks that come. Thanks so much for spending your Monday night with me, or for listening or watching this later. Thanks so much for coming along. And if you have questions, reach out. If not, have a great night, everyone. Bye, Instagram. Bye, Facebook. It's so nice for you to have you along with me this week.